This is who we are. WADR.
News, talk, music, get it all.
24 hours.
On West Africa Democracy Radio. 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. First, our top stories. President Mahama urges unity and discipline as Ghana marks 69th independence anniversary.
Independence granted us freedom, but freedom demands responsibility in how we manage public resources, in adhering to the law.
JNIM terrorists strike an army outpost on Benin-Niger border, killing 15 soldiers. Gambian Speaker Tombon Jatta calls on African parliaments to promote democratic governance.
At a time when democratic institutions and with the new status comes responsibility. Responsibility to strengthen our diplomatic engagement to enhance our collective cooperation.
Burkina Faso sentences several people linked to female genital mutilation practice. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining us. We begin in Benin, where a military border post came on attack by terrorists. The assault in the commune of Karimama in northern Benin, near the border with Niger, was claimed by the terrorist group JNIM. According to security sources, Wednesday's attack left more than a dozen people dead. Imo Edit has the rest of the details.
The new attack claimed by the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, JNIM, took place on Wednesday. The assault targeted a Beninese army military camp in the village of Kufono, located about 15 kilometers from the Niger border. According to James Johnson, spokesperson for the Beninese army, 15 soldiers lost their lives and 5 others were injured in the attack. The army spokesperson added that the military camp remains under the control of government forces following the deployment of a tactical squad accompanied by air support in a counter-operation. The same source reported that the response operation led to the neutralization of at least 4 assailants. The attack comes amid ongoing security concerns in northern Benin. Border areas with Niger and Burkina Faso continue to face repeated incursions by armed groups, despite strengthened military reinforcement in recent years. Just a week earlier, the Wadr police station near the border with Nigeria was also targeted in an attack. The assailants caused material damage, including setting a pickup truck on fire. To counter these threats, the authorities of Benin and Nigeria are working on a security cooperation agreement aimed at strengthening surveillance along their shared borders.
Imo Edit with that report by WADR's Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sule. Now to Ghana, as the country marks its 69th independence anniversary today. The anniversary commemorates the end of British colonial rule and the country's attainment of sovereignty on March 6, 1957. Delivering his Independence Day address, President John Dramani Mahama calls on Ghanaians to put the country first, setting aside political, ethnic, and personal interests. The president said the celebration should serve not only as a moment of reflection, but also as a reminder of the shared responsibility to build a prosperous and united nation. President Mahama also announced the signing of the 24-hour economy bill into law, which he says marks a turning point for the country's economic growth. Here is an excerpt from President Mahama's speech.
Today, as we mark our 69th independence anniversary, we do so under the theme, Building Prosperity, Inspiring Hope. This theme is more than just ceremonial. It represents a covenant between the government and the governed, a solemn promise that every decision we make and every policy we implement must foster prosperity and renew hope for every Ghanaian. Every administration, regardless of its political inclination, has played its part in building the nation we all proudly call Ghana. Our democracy has endured because we've learned to compete without destroying, to disagree without hatred, and to transfer power peacefully, which is evidence of the maturity and the wisdom of the Ghanaian people. My fellow citizens, when I took office, you granted me a clear mandate to reset our nation, Ghana. Resetting Ghana goes beyond simply managing our issues. It involves transforming how we govern, how we produce, and how we share the fruits of our prosperity.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Meanwhile, as Ghana marks 69 years of independence, a section of Ghanaians, particularly the youth, are calling on the government to place greater focus on tackling unemployment. They described unemployment as one of the country's most pressing challenges, while acknowledging the strides Ghana has made over the decades in areas such as democracy, education, and cultural identity. Many young people say meaningful job opportunities are critical to securing a better future. Here are the young people's reactions.
Employment for the youth. Our source of employment.
For me, the lack of opportunities for young people, because today we are talking about 55 Ghanaians killed in the Russia-Ukraine war. You're asking yourself, what are Ghanaians doing there? It's because they do not find enough opportunities here. So
they are lured abroad to engage in these.
They would, and most of them, I bet you, the 272 Ghanaians who are currently in them, I can tell you for a fact that over 90% of them were not told this is why you're being co-opted into Russia or Ukraine. And so I believe that when we are able to provide enough opportunities in the country for young people, we would get a situation where we would develop even better than we are currently.
That we know all the things that you are not proud of. What about the other parts that excites you about being Ghanaian and makes you so proud?
Ghana really has made me proud. I mean, when you look at our customs, our tradition, our clothing, everything, there has been more improvements.
I would say that the peace we've been enjoying so far.
Well, for me, the fact that we've been able to maintain our fourth Republican dispensation without any coup is one thing that I'm excited about, because you can't say same for other African countries, and you look at the security that we seem to be enjoying in this country, it's compared to none. Because when you look at our neighbors, all of them have in one way or the other suffered security threats and attacks here and there.
Some young Ghanaian citizens speaking with our correspondent, Na Didititi.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Nigerian House of Representatives has begun deliberating on the need to provide legal backing for the country's national decarbonization plan. Lawmakers say the proposed framework aims to strengthen climate governance and align Nigeria's energy transition with global environmental commitments. Our Abuja correspondent Yeche Nusasetu reports.
The move follows a stakeholders' engagement in Abuja, where lawmakers and policy experts examined how legislation can support Nigeria's long-term climate transition agenda. Chairman of the House Committee on Mandatory National Decarbonization, Sesi Wingan, says although Nigeria already operates under the Climate Change Act of 2021, the proposed National Decarbonization Bill is designed to strengthen existing policies and create a coordinated framework for emission reduction and energy transition initiatives across key sectors of the economy. He explains that the bill, which has already passed its first and second readings in the House, is expected to proceed to a public hearing as consultations continue with stakeholders across government, industry, and civil society.
As the roundtable aims to map current initiatives and stakeholders' priorities on decarbonization in Nigeria, identify areas of alignment and collaboration across sectors, and build consensus on next steps towards institutional leadership and legislative action.
Speaking on behalf of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mukhtar Shagaya, noted that legislative support is critical to creating standards that will guide Nigeria's transition and ensure all stakeholders operate within clear regulatory framework.
The economic costs of inaction are grave, from agricultural losses to damage in critical infrastructure. We can estimate this will run into hundreds of billions of naira annually.
Nigeria has pledged to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2060 under its commitments to the Paris Climate Agreement, with key sectors including power generation, transportation, oil and gas, and agriculture expected to play central roles in the transition. For WADR, Yechene Sasetu in Abuja.
For more legislative matters, we turn to Togo, where two crucial bills have been adopted by the Senate during the second plenary sitting of the extraordinary session of 2026. The first concerns the harmonization of the legal and fiscal framework governing the West African gas pipeline with that of partner countries, notably Nigeria, Benin, and Ghana. The second relates to the extension of the security state of emergency in the Savannahs region. Let's join Sankule Janko for more.
With the adoption of the bill relating to the West African gas pipeline, Togolese authorities aim to align the country's legal and fiscal framework with that of the other partner states involved in the project. The harmonization is expected to facilitate the management of the pipeline and strengthen energy cooperation among the participating countries. Robert Kofi Messan Eklo, Minister Delegate to the Minister of Economy in charge of Energy and Mineral Resources, provided further details.
The text you have just adopted reflects a clear intention to adopt our legislation to evolve in energy, economic and regulatory context while safeguarding the nation's higher interests. This reform not only strengthens the project's legal security and clarifies the applicable fiscal provisions, but also reinforces the balance between investment attractiveness and national sovereignty. It further ensures greater consistency with existing legislation.
The lawmakers also approved the extension of the security state of emergency in the Savannahs region for another 12 months. The measure is intended to allow authorities to continue efforts to address persistent security threats in this northern border area of the country. Both bills will now be sent to the National Assembly for final adoption in accordance with Togo's legislative procedures.
Sankula Janko reporting there. Crossing over to Guinea, where the Court for the Repression of Economic and Financial Crimes has ordered the release of former Prime Minister Ibrahim Kassory Fofana. The decision, made for medical reasons, has sparked a range of reactions among those involved in the case. Kassory Fofana is facing charges of embezzlement of public funds, illicit enrichment, and money laundering. Usma Uma tells us more.
At a session of the Court for the Repression of Economic and Financial Crimes, Judge Daye Mara noted the absence of the defendant in court. The prosecution explains that he had repeatedly refused to appear due to health reasons. A letter from the National Prison Administration was presented confirming the severity of the former Prime Minister's illness. Based on this, the prosecution, represented by Special Prosecutor Ali Toure, requested his release so he could receive proper medical care.
The defendant has been hospitalized for quite some time. He developed several health complications and has remained under medical care at the state's expense for years. For humanitarian reasons, we requested the court to grant him temporary release while the rest of the procedure continues.
Lawyer Sidiki Berete stated that his client's health remains a serious concern.
Better late than never. Even if he is released, he cannot return home because he still requires intensive medical care. I will continue to urge the justice system to go beyond provisional release and to allow him the opportunity to travel for proper treatment.
Represented by Pepe Antoine Lama, the civil party welcomed the decision as an act of humanity while emphasizing the need to protect their interests as the case proceeds.
The issue of his release is not our main concern. As the civil party, what matters most to us is the protection of our civil interest. In this case, the interests of the state are sufficiently safeguarded.
Former Prime Minister Ibrahim Kassory Fofana has been in pre-trial detention since May 31, 2022 and remains under investigation by CRIF, with hearings set to resume later this month.
A report by our Conakry correspondent Chanu Alpha Ibrahim Ambaldi, presented by Usma Uma. In Burkina Faso, female genital mutilation remains a pressing issue despite the practice being illegal. Recently, several individuals were sentenced in cases involving 2 young girls. Judicial authorities have reaffirmed their commitment to eradicating this harmful practice in the country. Francis Boniface completes the story.
The most recent case was heard earlier this week during a mobile court session held in the rural commune of Puni by the High Court of Kodugu. 4 individuals were prosecuted for the excision of 4 baby girls aged between 3 and 24 months. The case was reported in January, and the suspects were referred to the prosecution on January 14. The court sentenced them to 12 months in prison, including 3 months to be served, and imposed a fine of 500,000 CFA francs. Before this, another case was heard on February 17 by the criminal court in Bobo Dioulasso. 3 women were prosecuted for taking a 4-year-old girl to a traditional exisa in the village of Kiri, located near Burkina Faso's second largest city, so that she could undergo the procedure. The incident dates back to January 6, 2026. The suspects were arrested following an anonymous tip-off. In court, the accused admitted the charges. They were sentenced to a 12-month suspended prison term and fined 500,000 CFA francs. Magistrates emphasized that female genital mutilation constitutes a serious violation of children's physical integrity and stressed that combating the practice requires the involvement of the entire society. In recent years, organizations defending the rights of girls have stepped up advocacy efforts to end female genital mutilation, which persist despite being outlawed in Burkina Faso.
Francis Boniface fight that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. President Mahama urges unity and discipline as Ghana marks 69th independence anniversary. JNIM terrorists strike an army outpost on Benin-Niger border, killing 15 soldiers. Burkina Faso sentences several people linked to female genital mutilation practice. Still ahead in the news, Gambian Speaker Tombon Jatta calls on African parliaments to promote democratic governance. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. Don't forget, we are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The Speaker of the Gambia's National Assembly is calling on African parliaments to promote democratic governance and developments across the continent. Fabakary Tombon Jatta, who also chairs the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa region, made remarks at the opening of the association's 90th Executive Committee meeting in Namibia. WADR's Sandona Mendy completes the story.
The meeting focuses on strengthening parliaments and boosting their role in supporting democracy across Commonwealth countries. Speaking on Thursday, Fabakary Tombon Jatta said African legislatures must work together to reinforce democratic institutions and improve governance for citizens.
At a time when democratic institutions and with the new status comes responsibility. Responsibility to strengthen our diplomatic engagement, responsibility to enhance our collective cooperation, and responsibility to deepen our relevance to the 1.3 billion citizens of the African Commonwealth whom we collectively serve.
While progress has been made, the Speaker of the Gambia National Assembly called on parliaments to anticipate challenges rather than just react to them. His call comes amid increasing political, economic, and social pressures.
Across our continent, parliaments are confronted with economic volatility and physical stress, climate-induced displacement and environmental fragility, technological disruption and digital misinformation, youth unemployment, and demographic pressure. The realities demand legislatures that are not reactive but anticipatory.
The CPA Africa region continues to promote parliamentary democracy, good governance, and cooperation among African legislatures. The meeting wraps up today, Friday, March 6, with expected recommendations to strengthen the association's administrative and legislative capacity. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mende, reporting from Banjul.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview focuses on Ghana as the country marks its 69th independence anniversary today, March 6, 2026. The anniversary commemorates the end of British colonial rule and the country's attainment of sovereignty on March 6, 1957. As part of the event, President John Dramani Mahama delivered a national address calling on citizens to go beyond celebration by ensuring sustainable independence and progressive attitudes. However, a section of Ghanaians, particularly the youth, are calling on the government to place greater focus on tackling unemployment. Our guest is Dr. Amache Boateng, a governance expert and political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Ghana.
Independence has something unique in it, and if you don't have it, there's the likelihood that you take it for granted. You know, in the days of colonialism, Ghanaians, if you like, were not necessarily citizens of their own country, citizens of the land. They were more or less subject to the colonialists. And so what independence really does is that generally it restores one's dignity as a human being. You are a bona fide member of your country, of your land. You are a sovereign person, and that, to me, is an end in itself, the liberation that independence gives to the individual. Ghana is going through what I call a transition. Actually, the journey has been very long, 69 years. It has not been so fruitful. And so what is happening now is that Ghana, in a way, has come to terms with its reality and is going through the transition that it needs to go through.
After Kwame Nkrumah's overthrown, how can you assess the ability of successive leaders? Have they effectively implemented the vision of Nkrumah to greatly contribute to the retardation of the country's growth?
Actually, that is where the crisis started. Because, yes, the grand vision was shared by everybody. The need to make Ghana great. The need to expropriate Ghana's natural resources for the benefit of Ghanaians. The challenge has been how to get there. And that is where many people see Nkrumah as faulting, because somehow he couldn't share the vision, that aspect about how to get there, even with key members in his party. And so after his overthrow, several of them joined in the celebration. And that was a betrayal. So Ghana has been out and searching. So as we know, Ghana is in its fourth republic now. It has not been easy. You know, Ghana has, if you like, been in the wilderness.
With the current leadership of President John Dramani Mahama and his resetting agenda, does that repose some confidence in the country in all sectors?
Actually, President Mahama, watching his policies, the way they are being implemented, I don't have any doubt that President Mahama has the same, if you like, understanding. And so the agenda to reset Ghana, the way Ghana has been structured and functioning has not been satisfactory. There is a need to reset Ghana, to make Ghana work in a way that will meet the aspirations, needs of Ghanaians. And in addition to the agenda to reset Ghana, President Mahama had to give us the Ghana we want.
Where do you want to see Ghana? What are the sectors you think that need to be vibrant to ensure that the independence of Ghana is reflected through the policies or through the livelihoods of the citizens?
Generally, there are two main sectors, agriculture and industry. And it should be possible for us to link the two industries so that the supply chain will all come in, work to generate jobs, you know, that will really be rewarding. Jobs that will help Ghanaians to really live lives worthy of children in their own country, independent children of Africa. Somehow, we are blessed with a lot of natural resources, and then it should go side by side with industry. initially we should consciously move to address the challenge of having to buy food from outside. Ghana should not be exporting raw cocoa beans. Ghana should not be exporting any material in its raw nature.
Dr. Amachi Boateng is a governance expert and political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Ghana. Now in sports, Africa's football governing body, Confederation of African Football (CAF), has postponed the 2026 edition of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The tournament, to be hosted by Morocco, will now take place from July 25 to August 16 instead of the earlier March to April schedule. CAF says the decision followed consultations with FIFA and other stakeholders to ensure the success of the competition. And in Europe, UEFA imposes sanctions on Real Madrid following a racist incident during the Champions League playoff second leg against Benfica. A supporter of the Spanish club was filmed making a Nazi salute in the stands, an image that quickly spread across social media. Although security staff immediately expelled the individual from the stadium, the governing body still held the club responsible for the behavior of its supporters. UEFA announced a fine of €15,000 and ordered the partial closure of the lower south stand of the Santiago Bernabeu, affecting 500 seats for Real Madrid's next home match in the UEFA competition. And that's it in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening.